Hello and welcome to another edition of your favourite podcast, Insane in the Membrane.
Insane in the Membrane.
We are back once again with the Renegade Master. Hello everyone, Rich Wilson here, once again bringing you one of the finest podcasts in the land. You find us in the middle of Mental Health Awareness Week, which is running from the 15th to the 20th of May. Mind are focusing this year on the cost of living crisis, which is having a real impact on our mental health at the moment. And we talk about that in this episode briefly. You know, talking about, whatever you think of the royal family, it's up to you. I'm not here to judge or tell you whatever. You know, I've got my opinion, you've got your opinion, and opinions are neither right nor wrong. They are just opinions, as we've discussed many times on here. I found it a little bit jarring that, you know, in the middle of fuel prices, food prices, like people are actually shoplifting in order to feed kids, which is ludicrous, absolutely disgusting that is happening. Meanwhile, we've got this big party going on for a man who's wearing his mum's hat. And listen, I'm a comedian, I'm joking, right? But at the same time, I think it would have been more beneficial if he'd have gone, do you know what? Here's the money, let's sort the people out, and I still get to become the king. I think it should have been a bit more thoughtful to. I could rant about this all the time. Let's help the people, and then the people will be happy to support you. I don't know why that's such a difficult thing for government and people in these positions to understand. If you take care of us, we'll support you. That's it. It's that on a fundamental level. You know, give us water, give us food, stop charging us through the arse for everything, you know, so we can live. Let us live, and then we'll support you. How about that? Anyway, that's enough of that. I get too involved, I get too caught up in it. I need to stop. But my Mrs. Kate loved it. She loved all the pageantry and that. And there is, you know, on the scale of it, when you look at it, it's impressive. You see, we saw them practicing. I did a gig near Westminster Bridge, and we saw the bands going over at night after we'd finished the gig on the Tatchell Castle, the boat show, and it was impressive watching the bands go along, and brilliant, fantastic musicians. But there we are. It's a fight for another day. It's a fight for another day, and it's a fight I don't want to have. Let's agree. Let's just take care of people, and then, you know, that's what we should be focusing on. Anyway, my guest this week is the wonderful Robin Morgan. I've known Robin a few years. We've gigged together many times. He's always just positive every time I see him, and we talk about that in the episode. Like, every time I see him, he always seems to be on the right side of up and down, which is happy. And then we talked about it on here, and he was very honest about it, and it was a wonderful conversation. We talk about Prince Charles going to the Antiques Roadshow. That'll come up. I won't spoil it, but that was quite a funny chat. But listen, I know I do this every time. I talk about what's coming on rather than just letting you listen to it. I hope you're well, I hope you're good. Thank you, patrons, for your continued support. As the advert said, become a patron, support this podcast. We really appreciate it if you could do that. It's only a couple of quid a month. That'd be wonderful. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. You know, we've already talked about that. You can't afford to. You know, we're watching the coronation. Some people couldn't even afford to boil the kettle for a cup of tea. So, you know, I get it. But listen, let's stop all that. Let's get on with the episode. Coming up in a minute is the lovely, brilliant Robin Morgan.
Insane in the Membrane.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Insane in the Membrane, and this week I'm joined by the brilliant comedian and broadcaster Robin Morgan. Hello.
Hello, mate. You okay?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you, lovely Robin?
Pretty good, thank you. Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, excellent. Every time I see you, you're always the right side of, like, sunny and happy, and I imagine it's not all the time, but
I don't know. I people always say like that I'm a positive person, but yeah, no, it's rare that I'll ever, you know, go in grumpy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, sort of. Yeah, I think it is. I don't know whether it is a front or anything, but no, I feel pretty chirpy all the time.
Yeah. This is every time I think about you, and I think about you often.
Thank you.
You're there. Every time, it's always a positive, like, radiant, smiley face, you know, and you're just. And every time I bump into you, wherever it is, it's always like, "How you doing? Are you good? Are you well?" And it just seems, and I don't think it is a front. It does feel like it's a natural kind of.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, there's points that like I don't feel like super enthusiastic and happy, but honestly, they're sort of few and far between. I feel like I've been relatively lucky with my head and stuff over the past few years and things. And yeah, no, I think it's just, equally, I love what I do, and it's nice that we see each other at gigs or other fun things. And I'm sure in the morning, if I've been woken up by the kids, I'm not like, hey, let's start the day. But it's but usually I feel very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing, and why not go into it with a bit of positivity.
I think you're right. Yes, I think you're right. Actually, I love what we do, even when it's been, I don't know, you've been stuck in traffic for 6 hours, it's raining, or you haven't got a lot of money, or whatever's happening. I'm always happy to be at a gig. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. I'm happy to be doing this. And
for sure. I think like I was chatting to a comic chatting to Jacob Hawley about it last week.
Oh yeah.
And the first sort of gig I did when things opened up post lockdown was I did warm up before a drive-in movie in a field just outside the M25. So, but they were all in their cars and they couldn't hear me, and it was just, flash your lights, honk your horns if you're sort of enjoying it type thing, before like they showed Grease. But I was saying to him, like, I love that drive. I really miss that. Like, I don't think before COVID, I realized how much I sort of identify and put stock on what I do. And I think like I had a proper like sort of identity crisis a little bit when I couldn't do that thing that I really define myself by. But also that time on your own, which you get driving, I think is really good. Like this, and it's rare to kind of, and then you get to the gig and then you're sort of chatting with people and then you're being, you're on to an audience and stuff. Whereas that sort of solo time, I think, is really nice and important. But totally, I always feel lucky to be doing what I do. And I think it's nice to sort of take stock and go, oh, a year ago I would have killed for what I'm doing now, or this gig. And sometimes you're like, yeah, it's traffic and you're doing this gig and it's raining and whatever. But like, again, 10 years ago, to be doing like a circuit gig on a Saturday, fuck yes, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We forget. It's easy to forget, and some people do. And when I've had it over the years, once or twice, like, comedians come in and they'll go, "Oh, let's just get this done and we can get home, can't we?" And I'm like, "No, I like it. I don't want that. I'm enjoying this. I like doing what we're doing." And you're right about that alone time in the car. When it suddenly dawned on me that, I could be listening to something, whereas I would before I was like trying to get to the gig. And now I'm like, no, utilise your time. So now the blessing that is podcasts and audiobooks, my God, I can now say that I've not read it, but I've listened to the Odyssey, Homer's The Odyssey. I can now. That's now some. To be honest, it seems to me that that's what every single Marvel film's been based on. Forever, or every single film. If you listen, if you know the story, it's just like Odysseus is coming back from the thing, and then he's got to do the thing, and then this happens, and you're like, this is every film ever.
Yeah. I've not read nor listened to it, but equally, I don't think I've seen a single Marvel film.
Have you not?
No.
How have you managed that?
I don't know.
Whether you like them or not, but
like, I feel like I didn't watch any of the first ones, and then it felt like there's too much.
Yeah.
And I get sort of think. I think that if I watch one out of order, does that ruin it? It feels like I feel like if I was going to watch that, I'd have watched it by now. Like.
Yeah. Do you know, if you're into it, you're into it. But
yeah,
I didn't really know, because I was a fan of comic books growing up, but when I was a kid, but I didn't really. So now everyone when Marvel movies, so like technology sort of got to a point where you could make these massive films. Make it go, right, these are like the comics now. This actually, whereas before when I was a kid, I remember Spider-Man was wearing like a customised pair of tights. And,
still very camp and Batman and Robin, Adam West type stuff, yeah.
That's it, which was great. But now the technology means that superheroes can be as they were in the comic books, and Captain America turned up and I was like, I'll go and watch that. And then, but then suddenly everyone's going, oh yeah, this is the origin story of this, and then that becomes that, and then Guardians of the Galaxy's part of it as well, and then you're sitting there, you're going, okay, so this is all built up to one story. Oh yeah, listen, if you read this, that, and the other, and you're like, I haven't got time. And it's one of those things that if you watch one out of sequence, I don't think it'll. You won't go, what's going on?
Sure. I guess they have to make him sort of standalone in the sense of like, a fair weather fan could sort of stumble across, but then they'll pepper in kind of stuff for the little nerds and stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is a reference to this, which I love, but like equally I feel like it's not. I feel like I'm not in that community. I love that people are like. I love when people get properly like into stuff and like. That's their thing and stuff. But equally, sometimes I think, if it's not me, it's not for me, and I don't want to take any enjoyment out of what you enjoy. Each their own.
So we won't be seeing you at any Comic-Cons anytime soon. I mean,
if the money's right, mate, I'll do anything. I'll do absolutely anything.
All right, we'll keep you to that. We'll find
yeah.
We'll find something for you. So what do you do then? What are you into? What sort of things do you do? Is there anything you have a passion for other than comedy?
Yes, I think like post COVID, I started going to so moved back to my hometown of Cardiff and I've been going to a lot more music gigs, music was always like my first sort of like passion, I reckon.
Same.
Like going on sort of. I used to have like a really cool bar fly in Cardiff, and there's loads of brilliant venues here. And I used to just sort of go on the website listings and see who's coming up, try and find some of the artists and go, I like this one song and it's like £8 a ticket, so why not just go along? So I used to love doing that. And then comedy became my proper like, I was a comedy nerd, loved it, watched everything, YouTube clips, every comedy show on TV, I'd watch that. Then I saw, who was it? I think maybe Russell Howard was doing like a new material or doing like a Thursday at Cardiff Glee. So snuck in there like when I was 17 and then saw they were hiring and then got a bar job there and then met Clint Edwards there
nice.
who then booked me to do a gig. And then it sort of started from there. So music I think is like enjoying going to I feel like I used to really love discovering new bands and feeling like, have you heard this band? And sort of like being that kind of arbiter of taste and going like, well, I'm kind of not like sort of too cool to listen to like the mainstream stuff, but I really loved that idea of you discovered. And I think you get that with comedy as well, and I guess all art. Like you feel like I've discovered this. This is a personal relationship that I have with this artist and what they're creating. Equally, football. Been going to loads of Cardiff games. I took my son to his first Cardiff game a couple of weeks ago, which is really sweet. The first time he's since the World Cup, he got really, really into football.
Oh really?
Just watching it constantly, knows who's playing, knows who, like which team, which players, which nationality, what position they play. He's just become like, his brain is just obsessed with it. And I'd like to say that it's, I mean, I haven't pushed him into it. Like, we watched some sort of World Cup games. It is a shame that, like, when I tell the story, it's like, he really loved the worst human rights abuses World Cup. That's what got him into it. He hates human rights, and that's what he's really, really enjoyed football for. But yeah, going to Wales games and stuff. So yeah, I think a mixture of sort of live music and football. I'm trying to sort of do the audiobook thing in the car. I feel like I kind of I think I got burnt out by podcasts a little bit pre-COVID. But discovered you can sort of listen to things on like 1.5 speed and just like get all the get all the classics that I never read as a kid. But I feel like, okay, now I've read / do you feel like you can't say I've read this if you've listened to it?
No, I can't.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you've consumed it, but you can't say I've listened to Treasure Island. You're like, what? It's like you paid an old man to read you a story at bedtime.
Yeah, it doesn't feel the same. I know that's probably a snobbish thing somewhere where we're sort of people would go, well, you haven't read it, and you go, yeah, but I know the story and I've listened to it. So, to be honest, it was easier to have someone read it to me than it was for me to try and imagine. What I was reading, because I read On the Road, Jack Kerouac. And it wasn't until I had the audio book and I listened to it, and I in my imagination I'd said it in completely the wrong time, so everything was dusty and great. It was more like I'd said it in the Depression rather than the 40s and the 50s, and so it just didn't. It made more sense when I listened to it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't ever say like I've read this. I listened to, and it's like a book on tape. I've read it on tape. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? But
yeah.
yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, I always hated people saying at uni, like, "What are you reading? What are you reading at university?" No, you're studying. You're paying a lot of money to study. Not
I know,
reading a
paying.
subject.
I find it's funny with football as well. Even I think I've talked about this a lot on here. The fact that I don't follow football, it didn't. I've been to football and I've been surrounded by football my entire life, and my youngest son is into it, and everyone I know is into it, and it would have made my life a lot more easier if I'd been into it, but the spark didn't go off the same way it did with music. And so I've spent my life just not being able to communicate with people because I don't follow football, and they get really annoyed that I don't.
Sure.
And they get really annoyed if I try. Like I was with a big comic, I won't say his name, but there was I think it was like the FA Cup or something was on, and the second night I was with him, the show manager went, "Oh, you can go up and sit in Thingy's room and watch the football with him if you want." Yeah, fine, all right. So I'm sat there, and I was trying to talk about it, and he was getting more annoyed because he just knew I didn't care. And I went, "I'm gonna go. I'll let you do this, and I'll talk to you later."
It's a weird tribal thing, isn't it? I think like I think people who really define themselves. I think that anyone, if you define yourself by one thing or two things, I think that's a recipe for disaster, because we're all kind of like nuanced creatures, aren't we? Which I guess is sort of like how the culture war stuff like gets stoked up when, if you're so far on one side of an argument and that's all you define yourself by, then you're just going to go fucking mad, aren't you?
Yeah. I find and the fact that people go, this is what I believe, this is it, and you're like, yeah, but there's more, like you just said, nuance is such a great word, because people ignore it all the time, and it goes, there's more to it than that. And if you're not open to debate, like with football, I could easily turn around and go, football's shit, I don't follow it, it's just a load of millionaires running around, you're all idiots for paying as much money as you do. But then, when you have a conversation with people, a reasonable conversation, they go, no, well, it's a thing that brings people together, and it's, it's a thing for good, and for those 90 minutes, people are sort of they're on a level together. You found your group, and you kind of go, oh yeah, these are my people, and
for sure.
Yeah.
Totally. I think there's a lot of things wrong with this sort of. I feel like such an old man saying this, but there's a lot of things wrong with the modern game. And I think so much of that is kind of like capitalism in general, where they're bringing out a new shirt for 90 quid every single season. But I think there seems to be a bit of a kickback. I think Brentford aren't releasing a new kit every single year. It's just to sort of to save people. I think it's Brentford who are doing that. But as you say, kind of like it's an escape for people, isn't it? I think that sort of that COVID thing of when the fans weren't allowed in the stadium. I think it is a bit of an outlet. But I think the millionaires running around a pitch, and there are things that are like inherently funny. Like I own lots of Wales and Cardiff shirts, but the idea that like 70,000 people basically cosplay at stadiums up and down the country every single day, that is funny. Like grown men being like, I've got my favourite player's name on my back. That is really funny.
And they wear trainers that look like football boots.
Yeah.
And I saw a family once. I was coming back from Marrakesh, and we were in the airport, and there was a family next to us, and they were all full kit wankers. Both kids, mum and dad in their Chelsea kit, full kit, knee-high socks, trainers that look like football boots, the lot. And I'm like, that is simultaneously impressive and sad as fuck. I thought anyway.
No, I think the full kit thing is absolutely fascinating. So like we've got my kids, like I think it worked out as like once you hit 5 or 6, you stop buying a junior kit, you start buying a child's kit, and the junior kit comes with the shorts and the socks, whereas from sort of 6 up, you then have to buy all these things separately. So for like a mum and a dad to go, and we'll add the socks and we'll add the shorts, you're spending like an extra 40 quid each. It's just to essentially sort of like dress up. It's funny.
But then I was like, well, do you know what? That's a nice thing that I hope they're all into it. It seemed like they were all into it. It wasn't like Dad was like forcing it on them. They all seemed. That was it. If you're, sometimes I know there's people I know that they've had football sort of forced upon them.
Yeah.
But that looked like they were all into it, and it was a thing that bonded them because they're wearing the socks as well. And you go, "You're into this. Yeah. This is a nice family. They're into their things."
I mean, they're Chelsea fans, so not a nice family. A bunch of racists. That's what they were.
Isn't it funny how? As soon as you see someone like that, you straight away you go, right, Chelsea mean this, they represent that, and blah 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 blah. And it's the same with so my wife and I had a bit of a discussion the other day because she was excited for the coronation, just because her mum's a royalist and her nan was into it, and so she's been brought up with the love of the royal family and thing, and she was like. She's like, look, I get it. She goes, I understand that this is really bad timing, putting on this lavish party when there are people can't even afford to boil the kettle whilst they're watching this. And she goes, but I really like it. It's just in me to enjoy the pageantry of it. And we had a real discussion because it just annoyed the fuck out of me. So I was just like, this is so short-sighted. And then he showed you the people with their Union Jack hats and their flags and all that. And I straight away went, you're a racist and you're a racist. And it's terrible.
Yeah, totally.
It's such a terrible thing to assume.
I think it's fine, isn't it? Like, I think it's absolutely fine to assume these people are all racists. No, but like as you say, it's a tribal thing, isn't it? It's what they enjoy, and I feel like it is a distraction, and I feel like it is entertainment at its core. I think now, isn't it? It's kind of like it's column inches, and it's kind of. I was reading an article about Kate Middleton and like sort of her. Evolution, I suppose, as a royal, of how like obviously she has her causes in terms of like the first few years of child's life and stuff, and how she's had to balance it, not in the same way as Meghan being like, this is what I do. It's very kind of like delicate. Like it must be insane to be in that family. It must be utterly insane. Like even like one of I'm obsessed with like the ones who are like 14th, 15th, because that's the best bit, surely. And not if your dad's Prince Andrew, but like one of the other ones. He sort of just like gets away with sort of going, I'm never going to have to do this, and I can kind of just step away from it. But Like I think they might have changed it now, but like I think all the members of Coldplay used to have like get 25% of the earnings and stuff. But like the other three could just walk down the street.
Yes.
As multimillionaires. That's what you want, isn't it? You just want sort of like all the dollar, but then just be able to like live your life.
That's it, yeah. I saw Chris Martin at Heathrow. I was, I can't remember what I was doing.
You probably saw the other three as well, you just don't know.
Well, he sort of darted through everybody, he had his hood up.
Sure.
And I just happened to catch his face as he kind of went between us. And so I didn't, the others probably just walked through with their bags like they're going on holiday.
Hood down, please fucking recognise me.
I'm in Coldplay. But it's funny, it's talking about racism. That was funny that when they were talking there was someone who was asking people that were camped out, and they're going, so what do you make of Prince Andrew being here?
Yeah.
And they're going, well, he never got tried in a court of law, so blah blah. And you go, they paid a woman off. Yeah, they paid her off, so the story would go away. And you're going, no, he just wanted it to be out in the news. He just wanted, and you're like, oh wow. And then they went, well, what about Harry and Meghan? Absolutely not. They should not be here. They should. And you're like, you bunch of bastards. That poor fucker has been through so much, and all he did was marry a woman that he loves. And you lot, you'd rather a nonce was running around.
Yeah.
And he's not a nonce, is he? But
well,
at least because it was young girls, wasn't it? It wasn't necessarily children, but
I think once you start to get into the minutiae of that, actually, it wasn't. To be fair, it was still underage. I think it starts to get a little bit dicey then, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it was interesting to see who they were defending and who they weren't. And at the end of the day, you go, listen, Yeah, this is your thing. This is not mine. I'm going to let you get on with it, and I'm going to. And so
that's it. I suppose that's one of the things that, like, if people love Chelsea, great, love Chelsea, spend your money on Chelsea. But I suppose there's that thing of, because it is so publicly funded, like, yeah, it's great if you love the Royals, but equally, maybe have a subscription service.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea, because it's funny how we can find money for that. We can find money when the banks need it, but when it comes to feeding children, like the school kids that needed school dinners, and they were like, I don't know about that. You're like, are you kidding? Get the king to sell one of his mum's hats, and then maybe that'll fund a few bits and bobs.
But do it as like a car boot outside Buckingham Palace. Get some trestle tables up. I mean, imagine King Charles going on Antiques Roadshow. So much shit. Do you have the receipt for it? No, we nicked it. We nicked a lot of it.
Imagine if he went on there without telling them it was going to be him.
Yeah, that's what Harry should do, in a big disguise.
Yeah, it was my dad. It was my great grandfather's. Don't really know where he got it. It was just in the attic.
Just going through the loft. It's like the Elgin marbles.
So that's the thing, innit? They should start. Now we know. Everyone's like, well, that, like famously, everyone jokes about the British Museum being the only thing British about it is the building. Maybe they should start doing that. Just starting to build relationships around the world and go, right, sorry about that. There's your things. Here are your things. I'm so sorry, but there's still that energy, still that kind of idea that we'll look after these because you can't
be trusted with it.
You can't be trusted with
these. For sure. It's that British exceptionalism, isn't it? Like, we're going to go over and like teach you how to not be savages. This is how civilized people behave. And apparently it's killing and stealing shit. That's it. That's civilized.
There's a bit in Street Fighting Man, Tariq Ali, and it's from a play that's in the book, and it talks about the fact that they go off, like we barrel around the world, killing and torturing and stealing under the pretense of bringing them culture. You are just living in the trees, and we're gonna bring you out, give you knives and forks, and we're gonna do this, and just this assumption that these people were just wandering around like animals until we turned up.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
absurd.
Yeah. How were you living before we introduced 10-pin bowling to your society?
But I said that because I was talking about. I've mentioned this in here a few times as well, and you go, it's all about. If we got rid of, because we need, on this little island, we do need some cultural influences from other places. Otherwise we'd just be pie-eating Morris dancers. But even someone
sounds
said,
like such a great slur.
just a pie-eating Morris dancer, mate.
A great slur.
But even apparently, and I've said this on here before, I keep meaning to have a look, see where it is from. Morris dancing isn't even ours.
Oh, really? That's funny.
It's from elsewhere. I don't know. But
what prick brought that over?
Some
Guys,
dirty nonce.
It's the latest thing. They're going, this is like Oops Upside Your Head. Everyone is going mad for it. It's called Morris dancing. Christ.
Oh, God almighty. Well, that's just in the UK. Well, just in Britain. Considering, I don't know, it's just we're just this horrible little bunch of ants in England, and we just go off and try and kick off with England, with Wales and Scotland and Ireland. It's like, I don't know why we're so fucking angry in the UK. Why do we need to go and pick on other people?
Yeah, I think it's this seeing the world pass you by. I think the fact that maps have the UK in the middle of it, and how I think I saw one version of a map where I think Africa is way bigger than what it looks like on maps, but it's obviously just been well, of course this little island is in the middle of it. Of course, this is how it works. Oh, why has that happened? Why, because you drew the first map, did you? That's very main character energy, isn't it? The UK's behaviour.
Just in the middle there, and then everything else kind of branched out, came out from it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I have been lucky enough to travel with what we do, I started most of my gigs started in Wales. That's where I really started my career.
Really?
Yeah, it was Silky who's got a load of gigs. He got me into it. But most of his gigs were in Wales, along sort of Pembrokeshire and up in the valleys. So when I started, I spent most of my time in Blengadw and Pontardawy and Narberth and all the way along there. So, and Wales is an incredible place. Tolerant, I feel. More tolerant it feels than down here. I might be wrong.
No, that's interesting. I think it's certainly got its issues. I think it's trying to, like, government-wise, it's really trying to sort of like become more of a progressive country, and I think it has its own issues for sure, and it has its own poverty and everything else. And like, you know, the majority of Wales voted for Brexit in 2016. I think.
Really?
It's got like. It's got its stuff, but I feel like it's trying to sort of jump on Scotland's sort of like, we are the sort of progressive state within the UK, and I think the COVID policy like showed that a little bit as well. And like free school meals was like a Welsh policy, and I think like 5p bags and banning smoking in hospital car parks. Those kind of sort of things that you would have expected a government to go, well, this is all positive stuff, like legislation, whereas the last 12 years has basically just been how do we keep the status quo for the people in charge at the moment without actually putting anything forward. Like, I can't really think of many things that this government has done in its sort of 13 years being in charge. Maybe that's me being ignorant about it, but yeah, I think I think that's just they're just devoid of policy now. They've just got, which is why they're trying to stoke the culture wars to try and sort of just get votes that way. But yeah, I think Wales. I spent last weekend in Snowdonia. I'd never been that far north in Wales, and so we stayed in Porthmadog, and then there's this beautiful village called Portmeirion, like a couple of miles away, like this Italian village, and it's sort of like all like beautifully painted houses. But we got this steam railway through Snowdonia as well.
Lovely.
Over to Caernarfon. It's incredible. Like there's like 3 national parks within about 3 hours of my house. It's insane. it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I remember when I first went to Wales when I was 11, we did a school trip to Snowdon, and so we stayed in I can't remember what it was, but there's a hostel right by, is it? I can't remember if it's the Pig Track, but no, it can't be. It must have been the easier one, wherever the easiest one is, because we were school kids.
Okay.
I remember it, and then we studied Caernarfon, the castle, and we studied all around there, and it was such a. I think that would just stay with me because I'd never been to anywhere that was that incredibly beautiful before, breathtakingly beautiful, and I think Wales is always that. I mean, that may be why Wales is a little bit of my heart devoted to it, because it's like it hit me at a young age. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing to think in a few years that castle will be Wetherspoons, isn't it? It's just,
with the. That's well, the way it's going. Yeah, they're going to have to, because they're. Yeah, I don't know. I try not to let all this. I mean, all these things I'm saying now, I'll probably change my mind tomorrow.
100%, but and equally, sort of like I think that's also fine. And sometimes I think when I chat on podcasts and stuff, like, oh, if someone's going to clip whatever I say and show it back to me in 10 years, and you can kind of go, well, that's fine. I think, like, because you can change your mind and you can listen to people from different views and read up about stuff. Like, I feel like every time something happens online, the idea of, like, I get that people with platforms can use those platforms for good and stuff, but then sometimes I see people getting called out, oh, you mentioned this, but not this. Like, well, you're not an ambassador for everything that happens in the world. And sometimes I think it's, like, do stuff in an offline capacity. Like, I give money to charity, but I don't say, I've just given to this Just Giving thing.
No, yeah.
But I think I've been trying to sort of do, the last 18 months, I reckon I've been trying to live offline a lot more than online. I think it has helped me.
Yeah.
Because I think that post-COVID thing, like COVID, like, was the first time I sort of properly sort of had a bit of a crisis. And then coming out of that, I think the world becoming more online since then. Yes. I think it's not a novel thing to say, but it's not that good for us, is it, to be sort of constantly doom scrolling and taking in that amount of information. Our brains aren't ready for it.
No, I've actually had to say, I said to myself the other day, because I realised I'd wasted a lot of time again just scrolling, looking at things, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to. This has to stop, because I've got loads of stuff I should be doing. and I'm always up against it because I'm like, oh, the deadline's tomorrow, you know. And you just, and then I mean, I actually work well under pressure, so actually it's all right. But I don't need that stress.
Yeah.
And all I've been doing is looking at people skateboarding into jelly, and I'm like, I need to. Why am I watching that?
Yeah, I mean, why aren't I watching that is the real question, because that sounds mint.
But it's always mad stuff like that, and I'm just like, yeah, this is great, but come on, man.
Yeah.
You've wasted. This is an hour now. You've been sat here.
Yeah.
That's something as well. Like for example, time is rocketing by. Like today, I WhatsApped you because I hadn't seen that since October when you wished us congratulations on getting married. I'm like, oh fuck. That was October. That just seems like that.
Yeah.
Time. I don't have time to watch chickens running around with drawn on arms.
I love that this is your feed. I love how for like a lot of blokes it'll be, why is this all dancing girls on my TikTok? It's because the algorithm knows you like dancing girls. That's why it's on there. But it's you like jelly and chickens.
Just nonsense. It's always something silly.
Totally.
But time is just rocketing by. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe it because I was looking for your email address and I was like, oh, it's on here somewhere. I'm sure I've got it. And then I do, oh fuck, I didn't even reply to that. Shit. And then
it's okay. God. I think I text you on your wedding day, so I think that's completely fair enough. Right. If you don't respond. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't sort of cut your speech short to say thanks, mate. You know what I mean? Like occasionally I get sort of texts on Christmas Day. Like, some people like do like a big old broadcast message with like Merry Christmas, and I just think, you don't expect me to reply, do you? Like,
I mean, I should have looked at it.
yeah, exactly. Like this is like, I think there's certainly a couple of people who you'd go through the messages and it would just be Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Like, thanks, but I'm trying to stay off my phone. That's what I'm trying to do.
I think it's important. I think because, and I've said this on here before. My daughter-in-law Mary, she has to be organised because of her job. Mm-hmm. And she's got post-it notes up on the wall, and then she actually gives time. She designates, there's a bit of time she gives just to social media.
That's interesting.
Every day. Yeah, she goes, right, that's where I'll look at that. It doesn't have to be as rigid as that, but I think there has to be. I've now got a list of things I need to do before I'm on my phone looking at stuff. I'm like, right, you've got to check out, because there's so many ways you can be contacted now. I miss them.
Yeah.
So now I'm having like, right, check, and I have to write like, check the emails on these accounts, check your messages on that, get back to that person, and I have to write it all down because it's just got to a point I was just missing stuff. Yeah, no,
it's still the first thing I do before going, but when I wake up is basically check all the socials. And then it's probably the last thing I'll do. And occasionally I just find myself, I've just picked up my phone and I've just gone on Twitter. I'm like, why have I done this?
Yeah.
Just genuinely, like I did set up like time limits on it ages ago, where like I think if you hit like 30 minutes or 60 minutes throughout the day, it's like you've hit your limit. And then what I do is I click ignore and then just carry on doing it inevitably. I used to have a joke about I deleted Facebook and Twitter off my phone because it was making me sad. And now what I do is I just go on it on my web browser, and it's exactly the same thing. I'm just dreadfully addicted. It hasn't helped me in any way.
But it does make you sad. It does.
Yeah.
I've had to now stop looking at the news because I can't. The feeling of hopelessness was becoming. I was getting crushed by it because I was like, I can't. I'm not in a position to help people coming over here in dinghies. I'm not in a position to. You know, if they were in front of me and I could do something, then I'd do it. But I don't have the capacity to deal with everything that's going on.
Yeah,
I don't know how to deal with it, and me knowing about it just makes me feel guilty and shit. And I'm aware it's happening, and I do my bit. Like you've said, like you give to charity, you help people in your vicinity. You know, if you can help in some way, you know, then fine. But I just couldn't. The feeling of hopelessness was awful.
Yeah,
really playing on my mind.
I think it's the amount of information that we get. Like they've done studies about it, like breaking news alerts and stuff. Like I sort of like wake up and I go, oh, this person I didn't know died.
Yeah.
Okay. that's I guess that's what news sometimes is for and stuff. And I think sometimes people say, why doesn't the news cover good stories? And I suppose because what is the responsibility of the news, to inform and stuff. And I guess that's why there's become markets for alternate sort of news and things that kind of like skew to your beliefs and things. But yeah I think it's our brains haven't got any bigger in terms of the attention span that we've got and the amount of information we can take in. And now I think we take in, there was a stat that I'm going to misquote now, but basically it's sort of like compared to caveman times, it's like gone up, I don't know, like fucking 10,000% of the information. Like we get the same amount a day that I think we used to get a year or something like that. Like and that completely makes sense because every tweet is something new about an issue which I didn't know about, and then you see them, the next person saying, well, actually, no, you're wrong about this. Like, actually, you're wrong about this. Actually, you're a racist. Like, oh, fucking hell. Only wearing a Chelsea kit. What's going on?
Oh, we're going to get complaints about that.
Oh, it's fine. Take them on.
Controversy. That's what we want.
Yeah, exactly. Clip this bit. I will take any Chelsea fan.
Oh, man. But this is it, innit? It's just... Yeah, like you say, they wouldn't take any notice of everything else we've said around it. It would just be that little bit, and then they go, those are your beliefs. That's who you are as a person. And you're like, no, I said that as a joke, and I didn't, it's in the moment. And I'll probably change my mind tomorrow, because that's what human beings do. And that's the same with everything. Like, there's like you said before, like someone will say something online, and then they go, well, that's who you are. Those are your core beliefs. And you go like, no, I was hungry. I was pissed off.
Yeah.
I was skint. I was this. I was that. And it just made me say a thing. And because I've been guilty of that. Sometimes I'll hear myself say something. I go, I don't think that. Why am I saying that? That's bollocks.
I used to be quite bad for, and maybe I still am, I used to be quite bad for agreeing with whoever I'm speaking to currently. Even if someone says, have you seen this film? I'd be like, yeah, it's my favourite film. Like, I'll go so far in it.
Oh, I've done that, yeah.
Just, I think from a people pleaser thing, I think this is something I'm trying to work on. I want them to like me. I want to have a connection. I want to have something I want to have the conversations. I guess, lizard brain
it's defense,
totally.
Yeah.
If you say no, then is that a slight to them, or is that the conversation done, or will they not like me as much as a result of that? But yeah, it's the people pleaser aspect is something I'm trying to work on, because I think like having boundaries and stuff is important, and being able to kind of go, no, actually, this isn't. I don't know what my opinion is on this yet. I'll read out. Like, let me get back to you. I'll listen to you and listen to this and read this and listen to that, and then I'll form my own opinion, which will inevitably change throughout time as society changes and more data emerges, etc. But yeah, I think. But you can't say that in a tweet. You can't. You can't put anything nuanced in that. You have to do it straight away. And I feel like a little. I don't want to ever sort of become this sort of like grumpy old man going like, the generation beneath me doesn't have it right, because it's their world and society changes. And I guess you just got to kind of make sure you're staying true to yourself and evolve. You see it with sort of older, like certain older comics and stuff, like sort of really like the people who sort of loathe people filming stuff and putting it on TikTok, which obviously like, putting crowd work reels up and stuff isn't, it'll have an impact on like what people think comedy is, but if that's what they want to do, live and let live, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny with that. I was talking to someone the other day, and he was, because he's an older comic, and he's had some videos that have gone viral.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, he goes, yeah, but I got recognised the other day and I didn't like it. I'm like, well, that's part of the thing now. That's where we're at as a society. You've gone, it's not television so much, it's these viral videos. So you've got, you want your work to be known. Sometimes people are going to recognise you in a lift. So, you've got to go with it a bit.
But it's a weird thing, isn't it? Isn't it? Like, I think the parasocial relationship of like what socials have done to people, I think that some people lean into it and go, when you're sort of doing, like, for ages, I hated doing like selfies and doing kind of like talking to camera bits of like, I'm doing a gig here, you should buy tickets and that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of that stuff came down to body issues and not really like liking what I looked like. Yeah, but then I think the other side of that is people do feel a connection to you if you're speaking, because you're speaking directly to them. It's like it's like you're FaceTiming them or whatever. And I think that some people certainly do lean into that kind of idea of like, it's that I love my fans so much. It's that kind of thing. I'm really trying to like, my fans are amazing. My fans can get discount merch with the code LOVE. You know, sort of like, I feel like there's certainly a line between, it is still a performer. Like, I don't put pictures of my kids up on my socials.
No.
Years and years ago, I think someone suggested like I do more content because like people think of, you know, you talk about being a dad on stage and a young dad and stuff, which is, you know, so maybe you could like do videos with your kids and stuff. And no disrespect to anyone who does it and stuff, you know, everyone's different. But I feel like they haven't consented to being a part of it.
No.
And, you know, they'll grow up and, you know, certain things I say on stage, I'll say it from my point of view, but yeah, I don't know. It makes me feel a bit. I still think we're in the wilderness with it all a little bit, and in sort of like 10, 15, 20 years we'll work out A, what it's doing to us, and B, like, you know, like, will we think of it as smoking? Like, what the fuck? You gave speed to housewives? What the shit is this?
You're giving cigarettes in hospital.
Yeah.
As medicine.
Totally. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, I think, for sure. I think we're obviously like the fact that like TikTok is like a Chinese app, but I think kids in China can't go on it for certain. They set up time limits on it for their kids.
Right.
Oh, because you know it's addictive. You know that it's like a complete like drive killer, isn't it? If you're not, you know, you're going to be doing other stuff. Equally, people make decent money off it, and it's a career, isn't it? So I'm just arguing with myself because I'm such a fucking I'm such a Lib Dem that I'm just arguing with myself. I'm so BBC.
You're like me. I just don't want to. Like I joked just now about being controversial, but I'm not. If I say something and then someone goes, "Hey," and I go, "Yeah, sorry about that," and then I won't really, unless it's something I really believe.
Totally.
And then, but 9 times out of 10 I go, "Oh yeah, sorry about that." Just
for sure. But I think you've got to have your own red lines of like certain, as you say, topics that you are really sort of like passionate about, or things that you genuinely think are like fundamental rights that you can't really sort of like. You know, just disagree with people on. But I think we all expect to have. We have to have our red lines on every single topic, and that's not healthy because none of us are experts. The amount of people who are experts in that said topic, finite, you know.
And it's funny when you mentioned earlier about we were talking about when someone says about a certain film or something like that, and you'd go, I've done that as well. You go, oh yeah, no, I thought it was great. I thought it was the best thing I've ever. But now I'm a bit older. I'm able to sort of go, I haven't seen it. Is it any good?
Yeah.
I tried. There's been once or twice where I've been actively avoiding the film because it looks like the shittest thing, and I've gone, oh no, I've been meaning to catch that, and just like do it that way. And you know, it's just a nicer way of, rather than going, no, it's shit, because I know people that are like that, and it's difficult to be around.
What we were saying about the sort of at the start of, you know, coming out sort of as a positive, I do think of myself as a positive person. I know my friends think of it for me as a positive person. Like it's and my wife, like if I'm sort of feeling like low, sometimes you're like, I don't know how to like deal with you being low because this isn't like the norm. This is quite few and far between. But I do think a positive attitude, and this is probably because maybe you know, privileged upbringing of being, you know, in a group of society which is, you know, it's easy to be positive, perhaps. Like just I'm caveating my point with that, really. But I think that like if something goes wrong and you go, okay, that's shit. How do I deal with that? As opposed to, this is the worst thing to fucking happen to anybody, and then this is going to happen as a result of it. Having a positive attitude, I feel like, is a bit like, I'm not going full Jake Humphries and going manifesting and stuff, but like I think it is a bit of a superpower to be able to kind of like look on the bright side of stuff and go, I can fix this, you know.
It's really hard to do. I think, as we know, this has been talked about on here as well, is like human beings err on the side of negativity anyway, because that's how we keep alive and alert and aware of dangers and things like that. But so you do have to I have to physically say to myself, come on, mate. You know, it goes back to what you were saying about what you look like as well. Like the videos, you got a bit self-conscious. I'm a bit like that. I'm sure I've got body dysmorphia when I can't stand looking at myself. I don't see what other people see. I've talked about this on there before. And so doing the videos and doing things, I can't look at it because I'm like, oh, you're just a fat old prick. But enough people say, no, you're a handsome dude. You're this, you're that. you should have to start listening to them. You go, actually, a lot more people have said that than you're a fat old piece of shit. So
yeah.
maybe there's something in it, and you have to kind of train yourself to think on the more positive side. It's hard.
Yeah, that's interesting. It surprised me when you said that human beings are sort of negative. But I completely understand what you're saying in terms of it being a fight or flight thing, and this is how we survive.
Yeah, on that level, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I surround myself, I think, with positive people. I think because that's how I think that's important as well. Your circle, like obviously, like we all know people who are a bit kind of like fun sponges or sort of emotional vampires, and kind of like, you know, if there's something going wrong constantly for somebody, it feels like, okay, so but how are you solving the problem? I think it's I don't really know what my point is, but I think that, you know, a positivity and trying to sort of like trying to find positive answers for things, I think is important. And saying, and you know, this industry is all saying yes to stuff and just going, yes, I will do this because who knows what it will lead to in the future. I will do this unpaid thing because it sounds like fun and it sounds like, you know, so something else will happen. And I think trying to sort of take that step forward rather than, but I think it's the body issue thing, I think, is again another caused by socials, and obviously we're watching everybody else and seeing what everybody should look like and this kind of stuff. And I feel like I've taken a few steps towards that for me. And like if I feel like, oh God, what did you look like today? I'll put a filter on it, and that's fine as well. But like 2 years ago, I would have gone, people know you're using a filter, and they know you're doing it because they think you look shit. It's we're all just little messed up organisms, aren't we? Like everyone's got their shit as well. I remember, like, I was thinking about this the other day. Like I remember, I wasn't like a popular kid in school. I was like maybe sort of like one of these sort of in between kind of people.
Yeah, same.
But like I could make people laugh, and I had a group of friends, and like, you know, got kicked out of a friendship group at one point, but I managed to sort of go, you know, make some other friends and stuff, and it was all. I remember thinking at school at one point, like, even the most popular kid in school has got something they're not happy with. No one's life is perfect. As positive you can be. Everyone's got their shit. Everyone's got like something they're not happy with, or a family situation, or something. No one's life is perfect, and everybody's like versions of perfect or what's important to them is so different to them themselves anyway. So it's you know, I'm not ending this point with #be kind, but I think it's important to, you know, to realise that everybody's, you know, got their own shit, and and therefore it's fine if you do, you know.
Exactly. Everyone's dealing with something at some point. Everyone's got shit going on. Everyone's got their thing that bothers them. It's just, it's just try being more. I've found now that I actually say to myself, "Come on, mate, you're doing all right. Things are good. You're going to be okay." You know, there a problem. I find this as well when people come to me with like, "Oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and this isn't happening, and that's not happening." So I'm able to go, all right, well, what's the most important bit that you need to deal with now, and what can we do that will facilitate this moving in the right direction, and that seems to work. And I can do that with everybody else. I struggle with myself.
Sure.
But I can say to people, right, instead of telling me what you can't do, what can we do? Let's do that. Let's have a look at this. And you know, rather than going, well, we can't do this, we might just throw it all in the bin.
Yeah.
So I can do that, yeah.
I think those problem-solving skills, I think, are really, like, that stuff that, like, I don't go to therapy, but I've been certainly thinking about doing it shortly. I think like to try and sort of like build up problem solving skills and being able to kind of like, so I feel like, as you know, as you say, if it's somebody else, you go, okay, so what do you want? What's the best case scenario to come out of this? What's the worst case scenario? Do you want to just talk about this, or do you want advice, or do you want action? Do you just want to vent? Is that fine? It's like that writing a letter and putting it in a drawer thing. And I feel like problem solving skills and being able to sort of deal with emotional fallout of stuff, I think, is something that we should be like taught in schools of how to kind of deal with stuff, you know, and I'd say that's more important than certain aspects of, maths and that kind of angle of it. But yeah, I think, from chatting to certain other people, like I feel like a lot of my friends and a lot of colleagues sort of talk about, therapy and chatting to people. And I feel like, sometimes it's not, like, I feel like I've got a very good emotionally, literate group of friends, like male friends, who are like we're quite good with our emotions and stuff, and we can sort of usually go to each other with certain things. And obviously certain issues you kind of want to, I guess you want to have like a complete wall between what you're going through and people in your life, like that, which is why therapy is a thing, isn't it? But yeah, it's something I think I'm going to try and do.
It will give you those. It's nice to have those skills, even if it's harder to kind of use them on yourself. It's nice to have, I've like with my wife and other people I've been around, when they kind of look at the thing as the whole, and they're like, I can't deal with this, it's too much, it's overwhelming. And I'm like, all right, well then let's take a little bit. What's the like I've already said, like what's the most important urgent bit that you need to deal with first? What's got the short amount of time on it that it needs to be done? Oh, this bit. All right, well then let's not worry about the rest of it. Let's just do this bit first. Yeah. And then it might be, but I need to do this bit, but then that helps that bit. Oh, well then, okay, well then that's part of this bit then. And then it becomes, and then suddenly you're dealing with it a bit at a time.
Yeah, I think
rather
just
than the whole.
Right, totally. Just breaking stuff down, writing it all down, I think really helps. Like lists really help and things. And I think, I've got a little board of stuff I need to be doing, and then and then I've got like, I'll usually go, this is the deadline, I need to do it by this day, this is the deadline for this. I work quite well with deadlines and stuff, but I think if I'm writing on a job, so yesterday I wrote on a show and I knew I was going to send it off by 6, that was my deadline, great. But if I've got script ideas I should be writing, but I'm not going to do it.
No.
Unless I give myself a deadline. So occasionally, if and it's a privilege to be able to have the time to do it, I'll put in my diary, 10 pages this day, 10 pages this day, 10 pages, and give. And if I don't manage to hit that deadline, I'm a great boss. I'm not going to shout at myself. I'll do it the next day. But I think I work well with self-imposed deadlines. But yeah, breaking stuff down. Like obviously the world can sometimes feel. And again, I'm talking about it too much, but like socials and stuff, like the world is burning like on our phones constantly, whereas to sort of like disengage from it a bit and to sort of break everything down, and also be grateful for what you've got as well. Like I know a few friends, have little gratitude journals and stuff, and they go like, oh, okay, so what goals have you got for this year? But also, what did you do last year? What did you do the year before that you're proud of and stuff? Oh, I did this gig, or I did this telly show, I wrote on this job, or made this connection and stuff. And sometimes you can look back and go, oh, fucking hell, like, that's really great. And so many other people that would kill for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
To not be grateful constantly for that, I think would be mad.
It is. That's exactly that. Trying to remind yourself what you do have rather than what you don't. And I've got a really nice. We've got a nice little life. We've got. I'm busy. That's the thing. I talk to other people. And they're going, oh, you're everywhere. And you go, oh, am I? And they go, yeah. And they go, you are. Every time I see you, your face is here. You're going there. And you're like, yeah, I haven't gigged for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to remember that. Yeah, I'm very privileged to do what I do.
And I think it's, it comes arm in arm with like privilege and professionalism, and obviously like you're getting booked for stuff because you're great at what you do and people want to be around you. And I think that's also something to sort of feel like, oh yeah, it's that thing. I don't know who said it first, but as a comic, and I'm sure it works in other professions, but as a comic, you can be 2 of 3 things. You've got to be nice, punctual and talented, and you have to be 2 of them. You can be any 2. You can be a prick, but on time and smash the gig, and you're still going to get booked. You can be nice and punctual, maybe not the funniest person, but you enjoy to be around. Or you can be nice, talented, but you're constantly late and go, they are nice and talented. You can be any 2. You can't be one of them.
I think about last year I kept fucking my diary up to the point I've had to get someone else in to do it because I kept double booking myself. But that just came down to just bad organisation and not writing the gig straight in the diary as soon as I got it. Like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's in the diary, which I'm really good at now. Whereas I went through a time of like, oh yeah, I can do that, and I just wander off, la la la, la. And then I'd get 2 emails going, are you all right for this weekend, in 2 places at once? And you're like, oh, you honestly, you piece of shit.
And what do you think? What do you think has changed that your ability to do that now and put it in the diary straight away?
I think just that, having to say to myself, put that in your diary now, like straight to the diary. As soon as I see it, I go, yeah, I can do it, straight to the diary, and it's in. Yeah. Rather than I'll do that later because I'm not going to remember.
Sure, I guess that's just an example of the problem solving, isn't it? There was a problem there where, like, you know, for whatever reason, you sort of floated off and did something. Whereas, you know, what I'll do sometimes is I won't, I'll keep it as unread in my if I see it pop up in my watch because I'm an Apple Watch wearing prick, and I'll go, oh, that's a gig offer, but I'm not going to reply to it. I'm going to wait and reply and put it in at the same time. And like, it's just systems, isn't it? Like little kind of ways of making your life easier.
Yeah, do you know it's funny? You were just talking about you could be 2 of 3 things. And there's I won't say that, but there were some people I was gigging for, and you go away and you're away for a week or so. And they were, you know, we'd have dinner with these people, and they were going like, "Oh, we just keep." There's some people that are just difficult to be around, and they're a real pain in the arse, but they're really good comics. And I said, what we've started to do, we've started to make a list of like who's a pain in the arse and who's like really easy to have. And what we're doing, we're putting all the people that are a pain in the arse, we'll just bring them out together.
Sure.
And then we could just deal with it as one, rather than having one person upsetting everybody. Yeah. Because it's, you know, different personalities. We all oscillate in different ways, and, you know, whatever. And then I remember getting a text from someone who was away going, oh, they're such a pain in the arse. The other people I'm with.
Nice.
And I went, oh, that is a shame. That is a shame.
Yeah. That's really funny. Yeah, totally. I think you got to be pretty exceptionally talented to be able to like get away with being a knob, and also like I don't think it's the way I'm wired. But why would you be a knob to anybody? Why would you like be a knob to a runner on a TV show just for the sake of it? Like, and not in a way of self-preservation of like that person's going to be running the channel in 20 years, but like on a human level, like it's people it's the people who aren't polite to hospitality staff or taxi drivers or anything like that, and it's you know, on a human level, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, if you're just be there's no reason for you not to be decent to everyone. They're not beneath you. Like, always be decent to the, you know, like when you get to clubs, like say hello to the door staff, say hello to the staff, and then you don't even know if you're a decent person. That's not even an effort. That's just a thing.
Do you think that's just people how you know how you're brought up or hardwired, or do you, like, because obviously some I said earlier about like positivity and being kind of like happy and stuff, and I feel like that's maybe lucky that I sort of have that as a wiring in my head. I don't think it is like a false thing. I think it is just how I've lived my life, and you know, but again, feel fortunate that that's happened for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't know whether it must be a status thing, right? As you say, kind of like,
I think it might be
people feeling like people are like, I've heard stories of people like who, you know, have purposefully acted out to runners because that's the done thing. This is how you get to. This is how people perceive you to be a star. It's because you act like a fucking superstar. Yeah. And is it worth it? I don't know.
Not worth it. Like, all these people, they all talk like, you got to be nice to the makeup and hair. Yeah. Starter people, be nice. Just be nice to everybody that you come across, because everybody talks and they all do different jobs. They all move around, and you're going to get a reputation if you. And then it'll get to the point they go, we'd rather have this person who's all right. They don't have what this person has, but they're easier to work with. And so let's work with this person rather than the one that was kicking off. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, out of that, the 2 out of the 3 things. I mean, like, I haven't thought about myself in any way. I was 5 minutes early to this meeting, and
you smashed it, mate.
And I'm quite a nice person, so it must mean I'm a talentless fucking piece of shit.
We're both shit at comedy, but punctual.
Oh yeah, you say what you want of me. He was on time.
Lovely bloke, always on time.
Yeah. We're going to certainly read everything into that now. Oh, he's so sweet. Such a nice guy.
So where can we find you? Are you going on tour?
Yes, I'm currently midway through a tour. So technically, it's I've got one more date of the spring leg, and then so I'm self-producing it, and then it's been selling like wow, which I'm thrilled about.
Excellent.
So adding in loads of autumn dates as well. So I've got the last one of the spring leg is in June in Brighton, and then adding in, and then it starts up again in September. I'm doing another Edinburgh day, another Bristol day, another Cardiff day, and then like lots of ones all around. So my website is robinjmorgan.co.uk, or just search Robin Morgan on socials, and I'm not the 70-year-old feminist lady from America.
Just to clarify.
If
the Brian date, I might, if I'm around, I'll pop down and see you.
Yeah, do it, man. It's
That'd be great,
at the
man.
Carolina Brunswick.
Oh, excellent. That's a great venue.
It's beautiful, man.
Yes, I love that place. They had some lovely gigs in there.
Yeah, they've been really good to me there. I like them a lot.
They really are. They're so supportive and amazing.
Yeah.
They're Cliff and the guys.
Yeah.
Oh my God, really great place. So, yeah, if you listen to this and you find yourself in Brighton, go to the Carolina Brunswick. There's always some decent gear going on. It's a great place.
Yeah.
Robin, this has been amazing, mate. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Where can we find you on the socials?
So Robin J Morgan on most things, apart from Twitter, which is Robin J A Y Morgan. There's already a guy called Robin J Morgan, and he looks like me, and he gets a lot of followers based off. I want to buy it off him. But how much would you pay for a Twitter account on a platform that's going to crumble soon?
Yeah, it's not long. There's not long left. I would hold fast.
I will.
But this has been a joy. Thank you, Robin. Really appreciate it, mate. And I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks to everyone for listening. We'll see you next time on Insane in the Membrane.